Hello, everyone, and welcome to this evening's webinar on Nebraska's at-risk species, updates and highlights from the Natural Legacy Project. We're thrilled to have Olivia Durugna, a wildlife diversity biologist from the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission here tonight. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself and go over a few things. My name is Laura, and I'm an AmeriCorps member serving with Conservation Nebraska's Common Ground program. Our mission is to protect Nebraska's natural legacy by educating the public, supporting communities, and increasing civic engagement. We do this through locally led education efforts and community projects that address conservation concerns across the state. For those of you online, your cameras are off and microphones are muted throughout the presentation. Please feel free to type any questions you have in the chat or Q&A section, and we'll answer those at some point during the webinar. Near the end of this webinar, we'll share a brief survey that takes less than a minute to complete. Your feedback helps us continue offering programs like this, so we appreciate your feedback in the survey. This webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube at a later date in case you'd like to revisit it or share it with others. I'm excited to welcome Olivia, and Olivia, I will let you introduce yourself and take it away.
All right, thanks, Laura. And you're seeing the correct screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name's Olivia Durugna. I'm the wildlife diversity biologist for Nebraska Game and Parks. Thank you all for being here tonight, and I'm excited to share a little bit about our Nebraska Natural Legacy Project and the at-risk species that we identify in this project. Tonight, I'm going to highlight some of the changes that we've made to the recent edition, the third edition of the Nebraska Natural Legacy Project. I'll showcase some of our species and the conservation efforts that are going on, and then I'll share ways that you can get involved to help support the conservation actions across the state. So, what is the Legacy Project? It's our State Wildlife Action Plan, or SWAP for short. And this is the blueprint for conserving Nebraska's flora, fauna, and natural habitats through proactive voluntary conservation actions of partners, communities, and individuals. And so I just want to emphasize here, this is a voluntary guiding document. It's not a regulatory one. This plan has been created by a lot of different partners, landowners, and it's used by everyone, not just game and parks. And so the Legacy Project, and I should say, I kind of go back and forth between State Wildlife Action Plan, Legacy Project, Natural Legacy Project. It's all the same thing, so you might hear me use these different terms throughout tonight. But the goals of the Legacy Project are to reverse the decline of at-risk species, recover species that are currently listed or threatened as endangered. We also want to keep common species common, so we don't want to see the species that are common today declining and becoming at risk later on. We also want to conserve our natural communities here in Nebraska. And because Nebraska is over 97% privately owned, meaningful conservation cannot occur on public land alone. So we do rely heavily on private landowners who voluntarily implement the conservation actions that are outlined in the plan. And to ensure that the actions are practical and supported, we do work closely with landowners and partner organizations, including groups like the Sandhills Task Force, to really see this plan through and make sure that it's developed, supported, and carried out by all partners, landowners, biologists. And just to give you a little bit of background on the Legacy Project, so in 2001, Congress required that states develop state wildlife action plans and to have these plans updated every 10 years. And so once these plans are updated, there's funding available, federal funding available through the State Wildlife Grants Program. So these plans are really important for us to get funding for conservation efforts within our states. So everything that's outlined in this plan can qualify for that funding. And so we want to make sure that we are capturing what we need to prioritize and what we need to focus on as far as conservation efforts go. The first plan was created in 2005, and for about the last 2.5 years, we've been working with partners and gathering input from partners, the public, to update the third edition of the Legacy Project. And this was submitted to Fish and Wildlife Service in October. And so we're just waiting on their review and approval. And then in 2026, we'll have the final version ready and available online, and print copies will be available as well. So you'll be able to check it out then. But unfortunately, right now, we don't have that available. But tonight, I'll highlight some of the changes that were occurring. So what's in this plan? It's a really large plan, but a chunk of it does focus on habitat and landscape conservation. And specifically, we focus on conserving areas where actions can benefit many at-risk species as well as common species. So essentially, these areas are giving us the biggest bang for our buck. The terrestrial areas that we prioritize are called biologically unique landscapes, or BULs for short. And in the new third edition that will be coming out, we've also designated priority watersheds. So it's basically the same concept as the BULs, except they focus on aquatic habitats and species. Within the landscapes and the watersheds, we have identified the major stressors that are affecting these areas. We've also identified the conservation strategies that are needed to overcome these stressors. And then we've also identified the Tier 1 at-risk species that occur there. And a little bit, I'll tell you what the Tier 1 species is referring to. So this is just a quick overview. It gives you a sense of how we prioritize conservation across the state. And while I'm not going to focus on these landscapes or watersheds because it is a big chunk of the plan, I did want to highlight that here. And I will be referring to a couple of the BULs later in the presentation as well. So another main focus of the Nebraska Natural Legacy Project is identifying at-risk species. They're also known as species of greatest conservation need. And this is what we're going to focus on tonight. So we have different designations for species. Our Tier 1 at-risk species are those that are globally or nationally most at risk of going extinct, and they occur here in Nebraska. This list does help us prioritize conservation efforts across the state. To qualify for being on the Tier 1 list, it could be a species that's state or federally listed, a species that's ranked as highly imperiled in most of the states in its range. It's declining across its range. It could be an endemic species or a disjunct species. So those that are 200 miles or more from their main population. And so the reason why those are on our Tier 1 list is they might have different genetics that could be important for the long-term survival of that species. Then we have our Tier 2 species. So these are those that are declining in Nebraska, but they didn't quite meet that Tier 1 criteria. But we still want to keep an eye on them and monitor them. And then new in the third edition of our State Wildlife Action Plan is the species of greatest information need. So not to get confused with species of greatest conservation need, this is information need. So it's a new designation, and it's for those species that we just don't have a good sense of what their population size is, their range, their trends, but we think that they're likely declining. So we want to keep an eye out on them. We want to learn more about them. And so if a species was designated as one that's in need of information, our species experts then laid out steps that are needed to remove them from this list. So what kind of information we need to gather for on them by the next revision. And so hopefully 10 years from now, when we're revising this plan again, we'll have a better sense if they should be a tier 2 species, a tier 1 species, or maybe they're doing just fine and they don't need to be on the list at all. So to determine the changes to our at-risk species list, we held 7 meetings with experts from different species groups. So we held a meeting with a bunch of bird experts, insect experts, plants, fish, mollusks, mammals, and then amphibians and reptiles were combined. And so all the experts in the state got together and discussed what needs to be changed, what needs to be updated for the different species in the plan. So what they're looking at when they're reviewing a species, they're using information from research, publications, monitoring, their own knowledge, historical information as well. All of this is used to inform several factors like population size, the range, the area that is occupied within the range, what are the threats that are affecting that species, what's the trends since 2005 when this plan first came out. Are they declining? Are they staying stable? So the experts were able to review species and look at all that information. And within the plan, this is not new to the 3rd edition. It's was in previous editions as well. But for our tier 1 species, we have species profiles for them. So it gives a lot of that information that I just mentioned. Also the biologically unique landscapes where they occur. And this one is really great. It identifies the research and inventory needs for that species. So as I mentioned before, this isn't just a game and parks plan. So we've got grad students, researchers, landowners, biologists at partner agencies. They all reference this information to help guide conservation actions and research projects across the state. And so I'm not going to go through all the changes that occurred. That would be a really long presentation, and I don't think we want to be here all night. So I'm just going to highlight a few of the changes that occurred from the 2018 supplement to the 3rd edition. And so some of the interesting changes here. So as you can see, most of the numbers have stayed relatively steady from 2018 to 2025, but some of the interesting changes. So we've added a few more mussel species to our tier 1 list, and this is due to declines during recent surveys. Our smallmouth salamander got moved from tier 2 in 2018 to tier 1 in this latest revision, and that's just due to a small population size and a small range in Nebraska. We added a few fish species to our tier 1 list, including the northern pearl dace. So this is one of those disjunct species that I was talking about earlier. So its main population is more than 200 miles away from its population that's here in Nebraska. And that's just because it's a glacial relic species. But our biologists that are going out and sampling the streams where it occurs are also catching fewer on surveys. So that species got moved from tier 2 to tier 1 in this latest revision. You'll also notice with the tier 2 species, there's fewer birds in this latest edition, and that's really because Nebraska's on the periphery of some of the bird species ranges. So like tufted titmouse, ruby-throated hummingbird, red-shouldered hawk. Those are all doing just fine in their range, and they're actually expanding. We just don't have a lot here in Nebraska, but their populations are slowly expanding. So those got removed from our tier 2 list. We did add Hudsonian godwit to tier 2 due to recent declines. And then Some of our moths, so Married Underwing and Whitney's Underwing, were Tier 1 in 2018, but we moved those to Tier 2 because recent surveys show that their populations are more stable than what we thought in the past. And then we've got our species of greatest information need that was added as well. So a few birds, a lot of the insects are native bees that are really small and hard to ID, a couple more mussels, and some reptiles as well. Okay, so now we get to the fun part of the talk where we get to highlight some of the cool research that's going on the ground. So plants don't always get their due. They're not the charismatic animals that everyone loves, but we do have some really interesting plants in Nebraska, and a lot of them occur in rare habitats. Um, and one of those is a small white flower here called the Utes ladytress orchid. And it's only found in this tiny little sliver here in the upper Niobrara River BUL. And this was actually brought to our attention by a landowner. He had this threatened flower that was growing in a wet meadow on his property, and he was really enthusiastic about this plant. And with his collaboration with a local biologist that's with Bird Conservancy of the Rockies, they worked together to find a balance between ranching needs and conservation for this flower. And that came through spring and early summer grazing and haying, which actually reduced grass competition with the flower without affecting its blooming period. So this is a great example of collaboration with landowners. And just like this orchid relies on landowner collaboration and good habitat stewardship, another species that's showing remarkable responses to habitat conservation is our American burying beetle. So this is North America's largest carrion beetle, and it's one of our most efficient nutrient recyclers. They're really fascinating because during rearing season, which is in July, the adult pair will bury a small carcass, like a small dead bird or mammal, and they'll bury that underground. They'll lay their eggs nearby, and then they actually stay and protect and feed their young. So, about 1% of insects actually care for their young, and the American burying beetle is one of those. Unfortunately, the species has disappeared from 90% of its historic range. And so now it is federally and state threatened. Nebraska is fortunate to support one of the highest remaining concentrations in the world. And one of the key places where the American burying beetle is found is the Los Canyons BUL. So this little triangle here, that's where a big stronghold for them occurs. And it's a rugged landscape. It's mostly grassland and mostly ranching land. And you can see from this photo here what it looks like. So it's really rugged. And unfortunately, cedar encroachment is a big problem in this area. So the dark green that you're seeing in here, those are all cedar trees. So they're encroaching on these ridges that are really hard to get to. Because this region is so important for this threatened species, we've got long-term monitoring going on to better understand how the American burying beetle is doing. And that's been going on since 2007. With additional survey sites that have been added in other places in the state as well. And the surveys are fun for biologists, not all. You have to hold your nose sometimes because there's a bucket that is buried in the ground, and in that bucket is some soil and a really stinky rat. And I'm talking a very stinky dead rat. And so we put that in the bucket. The next morning, we'll go there, we'll check, we'll pull out all the carrion beetles that are in the bucket. So you can see in this first photo here some of the carrion beetles that are found. We have about a dozen different types of carrion beetles, and so We'll identify them, we'll count them, and then for the American burying beetles, we'll take several measurements too. So you can see that in the two photos here. And then they'll get a uniquely colored and numbered sticker. It's completely harmless. We put them on the burying beetle, just like this one here. And that's to help us identify individuals. So during the survey week, it's 1 week in August, we're going out every single morning and surveying the same buckets over and over. And so if American burying beetle has one of those stickers, we know we've already counted it that week. And after we're done counting and processing the beetles, we'll take them a little ways away from the bucket and then we'll release them. That way they're not going just right back into that same bucket. And the data that's collected through these surveys not only tracks population trends, it also helps us understand how land management is affecting the species. So the landowners that are in the Los Canyons BUL, they're facing the challenges of that cedar encroachment, as I showed you earlier. And this is really reducing their productive grazing land, and it's degrading that grassland habitat that's so important for so many species. So to combat this, the landowners are working with private lands biologists and they're working together, and many of them are on prescribed burn associations. And so working collaboratively on these large scale habitat projects, they're removing cedars through prescribed fire, mechanical removing and thinning to really improve the grassland habitat. And so using the data from our long-term American burying beetle surveys, the Tidwell lab at UNL has actually found that American burying beetles are strongly favoring the restored grasslands and avoiding dense cedar stands. So this research is showing that the effort that's going on, that the landowners are doing to get rid of the cedars and improve the grassland habitat is really having a positive effect. So this year really showed it. In August, when we ran our surveys, in one day we had more than 200 American burying beetles captured. And so this is usually what is captured in one survey week. And so to have that many in one day was really incredible. And then for the entire survey week, there was over 500 American burying beetles. So it was a really exciting year for the American burying beetles. And it's the habitat improvement efforts are really showing. It's also benefiting the grassland birds and mammals that the beetles depend on for food and just overall restoring a healthier prairie ecosystem. Okay, switching gears to the aquatic species now. So Nebraska historically had around 30 freshwater mussels. Today, there's unfortunately only about half of those that occur. The declines are a result of both human-driven factors as well as natural factors like drought, dams, agricultural runoff that degrades the water quality. And this is really unfortunate because mussels are such an important part of the ecosystem. They serve as the natural water filters, so they're improving the water quality for other organisms. They're also a good food source for many animals. And when we have healthy mussel populations, this often signifies a healthy aquatic system as well. With declines of native mussel populations, that often points to pollution or habitat degradation. So since 2016, Game and Parks has been working to reverse this mussel decline by propagating and reintroducing native species like the plain pocketbook and the fat mucket. So before these mussels are released, they're tagged with glue dots and some receive pit tags. So this little black line that you're seeing on the mussels, that's a pit tag. And so that allows biologists to then refine the mussels and see how they're doing. The mussels are released in areas where they historically occurred, and that's accessible to our biologists so that they can survey their year after year. They'll use, like you can see in this photo, detectors to find those pit tagged mussels. And in recent surveys, they've documented hundreds of live mussels from 7 different species. The recaptured pit tag mussels are showing clear signs of growth. So this is evidence that these reintroduction efforts are working. And so they continue to do more propagation and reintroduction efforts year after year. And we'll switch gears to our last species, the Harris sparrow. So this is a large, distinctive songbird that migrates through the middle of North America. It breeds in the far reaches of Canada. So you can see this orange up here. This is their breeding range. It's really hard to get to. And so it's hard to monitor the populations based on this breeding range. They spend roughly 9 months in the Great Plains and Oklahoma and Texas. So the yellow's the migration and the blue's the wintering grounds. And during this time, they're relying on weedy field edges, brushy habitat, overgrown pastures. And like the other species that um, I talked about tonight, they're also facing steady decline. So it's about 2% annually for the past 50 years. And so, since their breeding range is so remote, um, that orange again, a lot of their population trend information is coming from wintering ground surveys like the Christmas bird count. The cause of their decline remains unclear, but we guess that habitat loss on non-breeding grounds is likely contributing to their decline. But given these uncertainties, the Harris sparrow has recently been added to our new designation, that species of greatest information need. And in response to the information gaps, Game and Parks and Audubon Great Plains are working together to study the Harris sparrow and their migration ecology. They've been studying them since 2023, and they're using the Modus Wildlife Tracking Network. And this effort has expanded in the last 2 years. So they're tagging more birds and adding a few more study sites to really compare that migratory stopover ecology between the different landscapes in the state. And they're using the Modus network to determine their movements and migration timing, as well as their stopover duration across the Great Plains. So when you hear me say stopover, that's basically so when birds migrate, some of them have stopover sites, and these are like rest stops. So they're stopping at places with decent habitat where they can get food, they can rest. Some of them will stay there for a while and eat a lot of food to pack on more fat so that they can continue their migration further. And so when I mentioned the Modus network, so this is one of the towers that was set up. So um, they're pretty easy to set up, and a lot of people are setting them up. And so these towers get set up, and then a bird or a bat, if it's got a nano tag, so this tiny little tag here, it's smaller than a dime. If they fly by the tower, that information is documented. You can see the two Harris sparrows here. So this one is a male. It's got that black forehead and face and chin versus the females are all brown. You can barely see this little white thing here. That's the tag. And this little white thing, that's the tag. So they are very tiny. But these tags are helping us track to see how long these birds are staying at these stopover sites during migration, and specifically areas where we manage or are concerned about from a habitat perspective. So all this little bits of data that we're collecting is helping us better understand this species of greatest information need. And it's going to help us inform conservation efforts here in Nebraska that will benefit this Great Plains specialist. And just because Modus is so cool and I want to share a little bit more information about it, I'm just going to highlight a few things. So it's a international system of automated telemetry towers that can detect tagged animals as they move across a large landscape. The towers, like the one shown here, they're set up all across the country and even internationally by different organizations, agencies, universities. And anytime an animal with a nanotag flies by a tower, it's documented. And so there's a lot of different research projects going on a lot of different species. And so if an animal is tagged by another entity and it's in a completely different state and it's picked up on these towers, it's like our hair sparrows. It's documented, and so it doesn't have to be the tower that you set up for that species to be documented at. It could be documented at any tower that's within the network. So this is a screenshot of the Spring Creek Prairie Audubon Center tower. If you just go on the MODIS website, you can see the different towers and the different animals flying by, but this shows you the different uh, tagged animals that were picked up on the tower. So we've got our Harris sparrows, Tennessee warbler, wood thrush, and you can get that information about where they're going, how long they're staying at these stopover sites. So a lot of great information, and it's really just fascinating and a great collaborative network for conservation efforts across the nation. Okay, so getting back on track here. So how can you get involved with conservation efforts in Nebraska? We've got a lot of great community science projects, including the Christmas bird count. So I mentioned it earlier that we use the Christmas bird count data to help us understand how Harris sparrows are doing. We also use it to help us understand other declining bird populations as well. This is a great survey. If you're a beginning birder, you can tag along with an experienced birder, and the data contributes to some really great monitoring efforts. So that's coming up. It starts on Sunday. You can visit that website to find a Christmas bird count near you. And then other projects that we've got going on, we've got our NA BAT project. So you can set out some acoustic detectors and help us identify and see what kind of bats we have around. We also have our plain spotted skunk camera trap study. So some people call them civet cats when they were formerly known as eastern spotted skunks, but um, these are really rare. There's only been 3 observations of this species in the last decade. And the most recent observation was actually by one of our biologists just a few weeks ago who took this photo. So we need help from the community to help us track this species because they are really few and really hard to document. So um, and you can visit our website and search community science to learn more about these projects as well. We have a few pollinator projects. So we've got our big butterfly count, our monarch and regal fritillary surveys, and then my personal favorite, the Nebraska Bumblebee Atlas. So this is a really fun way to get outside and contribute data to conservation. It occurs during the summertime, and you can do the surveys with friends and family. And basically, you go out to an area with lots of flowers, you catch a bumblebee, you put it on ice, you take photos and idea, and then once it warms up, it flies off again. So it's a fun survey, and you can learn more about that on their website as well. And you never know what you might find. I think I saw Julie on here earlier. So she was our pollinator technician, and she actually found Morrison's bumblebee. It's a species that was recently added to our Tier 1 at-risk species list, and it's only the third confirmed record of this rare bee. in Nebraska, and we've had over 10,000 uh, bumblebees documented statewide since 2019. So this is only the third record of it. And what's really cool about this sighting is that it occurred on private land that this family manages beyond the typical CRP standards. So they're doing really great conservation work and habitat work. And so it's just a great example of collaborations with landowners to conserve habitat that benefits all wildlife. And beyond participating in community science projects, you can also support conservation efforts by donating to the Nebraska Wildlife Conservation Fund. This supports a variety of wildlife and habitat projects, including the Hair Sparrow project I talked about earlier. And if you donate $30 or more online, you get these really fun t-shirts. So there's a few remaining with the Greater Prairie Chicken. And then come in 2026, we'll have t-shirts with this cute Blandings turtle in the Sandhills. So if you want to donate or learn more about the Wildlife Conservation Fund, you can visit outdoornebraska.gov and search Nebraska Wildlife Conservation Fund. And you can also get a really fun license plate with the Blanding or the ornate box turtle, sandhill crane, or the bighorn sheep too. And so to wrap things up, I just want to reiterate the Natural Legacy Project would not be successful without the voluntary effort of private landowners and partners. It's the blueprint for conservation work here in Nebraska. And so I hope you all follow us on Facebook. We'll let you know when it's available for you to check out online or see a print copy as well. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And I don't know if they can unmute to ask questions or feel free to type them in the chat. Looks like Buffalo Bruce. Are you able to unmute? If not, feel free to type in the chat. Okay, it looks like who can I chat with about
Yeah,
acreage? Oh,
can
sorry.
you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. What county was skunk found in?
I didn't quite catch that. Can you repeat yourself?
County was a spotted skunk.
I think you're asking where the spotted skunk was found. So that
Yes.
was okay. That was in north central Nebraska,
Oh,
up up near the I think the Kippahaw area. But yeah. But they used to occur statewide. So we're looking for volunteers to set up camera traps. And you can find out more information on our website, outdoornebraska.gov, and then search community science. You'll see the Spotted Skunk Project there. And you can volunteer to set up a camera trap. If you see a spotted skunk, you can report your sightings to us. We'd love to hear more about those observations. And we also have a way for volunteers that if all the photos that get uploaded from these field cameras get uploaded to a website. So if you just want to go through those photos and identify what animals are in them, that's another way you can contribute to that project as well.
Can you hear me now better?
Yes.
What county was that bumblebee located with the rancher?
Box Butte, I think.
Okay,
Yeah, it was out in the Panhandle.
thank you.
You're testing my geography skills.
Okay.
We've got some questions in the chat.
Okay. Who can I chat with about our acreage and the habitat improvement we're trying to work on? If you want to send me an email, I'll type my email in the chat and I'll get you in touch with someone that can help you. How does someone get a bat listening box? So for that, I would visit our community science website, and there's more information about how you can become a volunteer for the Nebraska Bat Project, and they'll get you set up. If you're just interested on your own, there's, I think, what is it? I'm forgetting the brand, but if you Google bat acoustic detector, I'm sure it would pop up, and that's a great way to just see what kind of bats are in your own yard as well. The Modus towers can be set up by anyone. We actually rely on a volunteer who loves setting up the towers, and he's been helping us set up the towers here in Nebraska as well as over in Iowa. So if you are determined, they can be set up a variety of different ways. I just showed a photo of one type of setup, but yeah, an individual can set up a Modus tower as well. The hair sparrow research is going on in central and eastern Nebraska. So we've got stopover locations where hair sparrows are being tagged along the Platte River, as well as at Spring Creek Prairie Audubon Center, and some other eastern Nebraska spots. I believe there are some mussels in the sandhills. Don't ask me what type though. I am no mussel expert, so but yeah, they're kind of statewide depending on the species. What study is the study published? I'm not sure what study you're referring to. Hmm. Yeah, even if you live in a city, there's a lot of great community science projects that you can do. And there's wildlife all around. I love looking at bumblebees in my yard. Anytime a bumblebee flies in my yard, I'm submitting that as an incidental observation to the Bumblebee Watch website. So even if you're in the city, you can still document wildlife. You can still enjoy it. We do have a lot of at-risk plant species that are identified. It's by far the most species that we have on our list. And there are some, I some shrubs. I'm not sure if there's tree. I'll have to double check on that. But you can also see some of the previous versions online, but hopefully we'll have the 2025 version available for you to refer to in the next several months. So the spotted skunks or the civet cats, they are more interested in like old farm, like shelters, regular striped skunks. They kind of go anywhere and everywhere, but with the decline of small farms, there's been a decline in the spotted skunks. Do you know what kinds of projects help mussels recover? I'm not sure what that's referring to. And we will have, again, this plan available in 2026. And so you'll be able to refer to that better with updated information. So unfortunately, at this time, we don't have the plan ready for to share, but you can find out, and I'll get the link to our website in the chat. So if you do want to learn more about it and when the newest version is available, you can check that out. But for right now, here's the link to that. And that will give you some additional information. Let me see if I can pull up the community science one real quick too. So there's the link to the community science page as well, where you can find out a lot more information about the bat community science project, the spotted skunk, our butterfly surveys, and the bumblebee atlas. I think I got all the questions. If I missed any, again, feel free to email me. I'm happy to answer any additional questions, and I'll put my email again in the chat for you.
See, did you see the questions in the Q&A?
Did not. Okay. I'm a landowner with conservation easement in 9 Mile Prairie northwest of Lincoln. Do you have a map of species for this area so we can see what is in our area? If you go to the Legacy Project website, there is the old, again, it's not updated, but there's a map of our biologically unique landscapes. And so if you click on that map, it'll take you to a page where it's more interactive, so you can zoom in. I don't have a specific list of the species in that area, but you can see the tier 1 species that occur in the biologically unique landscapes near there. And yeah, when the new plan is out, um, you'll be able to see what species occur in the different ecoregions as well. So the tall grass prairie, mixed grass prairie, sandhills, and shortgrass prairie. But unfortunately, that is not ready at this time. Um, so cardinals, they they are doing all right. We actually have them expanding into western Nebraska. So I'm out in the Scottsbluff area and we're getting more cardinals, but it could just be they're moving to a different feeder. If there's a hawk around, like Cooper's hawk, that will keep the birds away from your feeder. Um, but they're doing okay. Hopefully you'll get a cardinal back to your feeder soon. Yeah, and Harris sparrows are a great backyard bird, so um, especially in winter time, so you might have them come into your feeder. So definitely keep an eye out for them. Do you have to have a bachelor's degree to be a conservation biologist, or can you have a lesser degree? Um, a bachelor's does help, but again, it depends on the person, the job, the timing. Um, but yeah, even just having an interest in wildlife, you can always help out doing community science projects, but it just depends on the position. Um, where can we see the results for the big butterfly survey? If you go to that community science project or website, and you can click on the um, big butterfly count, and that will give you more information about that. I'm not sure when the results will come out. That survey's in conjunction with our Nebraska Master Naturalists. And so um, they are still in like the beginning stages of that project. So I think last year was either the first or second year of the project. So yeah, they're they're still working out the details, and every year it's getting refined more and more, but hopefully they'll have some more results out soon. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us tonight and asking great questions. And I hope you all have a great week and weekend. And don't forget the Christmas bird count is starting on Sunday. So try and find one near you. They're really fun, and it's a great excuse to get outside in the middle of winter. So,
Thank you, Olivia, for your excellent presentation.
yeah, thank you for having me.
Have a good evening, everyone.